Ep23 presents Tiny Tales of Transformation. Episode 23, Change Fatigue. Transformation has become a true strategic capability. The real question now is the pace at which the company can absorb changes while maintaining its momentum. It is precisely on this fine line that change fatigue may appear. An exhaustion of the capacity to adapt generated by the accumulation and repetition of changes. This differs from resistance. A team may buy into the purpose, validate the logic, and understand the stakes of a program, while its psychological, cognitive, and operational bandwidth gradually saturates to the point where commitment and quality of execution decline. Each transformation mobilizes part of the company's attention capital. New practices must be learned, priorities reinterpreted, emotional impact managed, and constant arbitration made between what must continue to run smoothly and what must evolve. When several projects arrive at the same time, the company accumulates a change debt. The volume of adaptation required is larger than the organization's actual capacity to absorb it. This debt shows up first as reduced energy, then as weaker commitment, and finally as a decline in the quality, speed, and coherence of execution. Fatigue sets in particularly when the pace accelerates, when teams carry change on top of their day-to-day activities, and when reference points slip out of view. Over time, a kind of collective memory is formed. As successive waves of change roll in, the organization detects early on the signals of yet another program, and spontaneously adopt protective behaviors such as caution, withdrawal, or minimal compliance. This may look like resistance, but it is primarily a matter of self-preservation. The symptoms are subtle at first. A decline in participation, increasingly short-sighted decisions, teams executing for compliance rather than for commitment, and a proliferation of workarounds. Beyond these symptoms, a risky phenomenon also emerges. The loss of the ability to absorb the next change. On a human level, change fatigue is associated with rising stress, loss of motivation, lower morale, and often an increased intent to leave the team. And on a business level, change fatigue translates into reduced traction. Transformations can fail because the organization becomes saturated. So what can we do about it? First, treat change fatigue as something other than a communication issue. It is in fact an imbalance between demands for the change and available resources. The answer therefore begins with governance, by managing a portfolio of changes rather than a succession of projects. This involves limiting the number of simultaneous initiatives, clarifying priorities, sequencing efforts, and above all, knowing how to say stop to whatever does not add value. The most impactful change attitude is to have the courage to stop doing. Next, the organization must increase its capacity to absorb, allow sufficient time for training, and respect stabilization periods. Reduce the gray areas. Clearly state what is changing, what is not changing, by when, and according to what criteria. Your transformation program must have a clear start, clear celebrated milestones, and a clear end. Uncertainty is a major amplifier of change fatigue. And finally, return control to the teams wherever possible. Give them autonomy, real participation in implementation choices, and give room to maneuver on how changes will be made. Giving this control back often restores energy, the feeling of not just enduring a change, but contributing to it. Therefore, there is also a discipline to measurement. Still too rare. Monitoring change fatigue as a risk indicator. This makes it possible to track perceived overload, clarity of priorities, sense of control, and ability to learn. In other words, every company should ask itself, how capable is the organization of weathering the next storm? And this is where Ep23 can be instrumental in both a detectory and regulatory role. We can detect the level of change fatigue with greater objectivity, in particular by highlighting the change debt. We can help with prioritization and sequencing, establishing capacity gates, and stabilization plans aligned with the time and energy available. And finally, we enable the company to keep pace with environmental pressure by reframing the challenge of going faster into going better, accelerating where the organization has capacity and slowing down where it is saturated. By recognizing change fatigue as a true risk to the success of your transformation and courageously managing it openly and objectively, accompanied by clear and continuous communication, your transformation will be on the path to success. Want to find out more? Join us on alpionys.ch. alpionys.ch.